Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we got ourselves a track from an ex named Lyrizone titled Make You Mine. And if we switch over to here, we got ourselves a track here on YouTube here, the official music video in 4K. We're going to listen through it from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it, let's go. What do we got? I like the cinematic audiovisual experience so far.
Oh look, there's a misdirection, meaning caught you in a lie. Funny how you redirected just to see if I reply. So considerate, I often wondered if you ever cried. I doubt it, you likely look for another. Take my life again. I gave my all to you, fell off you, but that admission won't pass the proof. When the price went higher, when we called a truce, that's fucked up. Cause I paid admitting for at least love like a dumb fuck. Mess and tricks full of better luck. When a punchline lands, when your love stuck. And that's all me, you're free. Just imagine what I do all day. Fuck the mask, I'm away, your skin. In pain of trouble while I break you in. You pray for God while I show you there's not one. Reveal the world to me, no, I'm done. Beg for mercy, cause I'm unworthy. Believe they trust this cult, so get up. Promise you I will be no twisted when I'm feeling indecisive. When I could forgive you, should I choose to make you mine? Which one should I pick? You choose a beggar looking pretty lifeless. See my awful love, now my tongue disgrace the violence. How I never let you get to me like a parasite. Gnawing at the darkest space in me. You're afraid of light, fighting in a state that weakens me. When I'm terrified, all in I feel what's in my own mind. How I never let you get to me.
No, actually, this is quite good.
Your future and present, I control the rest. I get low to the mirror, to the gain a new perspective. That get connected from distant phantoms or different message. But I don't see none, and I don't feel good. Cause the person I choose to become is better than you two. But then again, that's my fault. I don't even know your dreams. Never once can see your schemes. Didn't calculate a thing. All this crap I bear is heavy. Wait, it's for a fucking king. So who am I to damn me for some loose bitch that I maybe need? Knock, knock, knock. Take it heavy and it's crystal ball. That's why it's hard. Part of vision of me doing better. I know what I like. Just a soul of this haunted instinct. Catch the power of the great voice of scarlet. That's fine. Let you get to me like a parasite. Gnawing at the darkest space in me. You're afraid of light. Fighting in a state that weakens me. When I'm terrified, all in I feel what's in my own mind. How I ever let you get to me like a parasite. Gnawing at the darkest space in me. You're afraid of light. Fighting in a state that weakens me. When I'm terrified, all in I feel what's in my own mind.
Great adjustment to a breakdown here. I mean, it's a lot to absorb, if I'm honest. I think a lot of it's awesome. I'm really happy with what we're trying to accomplish here. I mean, yeah, I've got questions. That's cool. Excellent. I'm going to talk about it more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Lyrizone titled Make You Mine. In this section, I'm going to be providing an overall song analysis of everything from like lyrics and vocals all the way through to studio production, as well as any applicable constructive critique. And then finally, my general thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think that Make You Mine is discussing a toxic relationship they had. There's mentions of gaslighting, someone being a parasite, kind of leaving you in the past, etc. I think there's more to it. I'm not sure how to really sort of like break it down or to sort of add more specificity to it. I need to listen to it because there's a lot to absorb within this track. But I think effectively it's more about flipping the position that they're in so that they are the ones that are in control of the situation as opposed to being led by the strings by the other person. I think that's effectively what it is. I look at the video that we have there, they're looking into like the crystal ball or trying to sort of figure out how to make their mix move, etc. And I think it's kind of neat. The audio visual experience was very well done. I'm very happy with it. It's mesmerizing. It really is. There's a lot. It's just great that the music backs that up. Vocally, they've got this really distinctive texture and timbre to their voice. They've got a great position in it. It sounds kind of depraved and decrepit in a certain sense. It's very kind of whimsical, I suppose. They've got this kind of fancy element to it with the mask, and I think that the voicing does kind of suit the image that they have for themselves. I like that they're doing lots of double tracking to add further sort of size to their voice in the sides of the stereo field, and I think that we get into the chorus, everything comes together really neatly. It's wonderfully embellished. You know, I think there are also some lower notes as well. We have a solid control over our vocal range, and it's just so full sounding with a dimensionality that I appreciate. There are a wide variety of different rhythms. There's some fast, almost sort of speed rapping-ish kind of parts there. We take our time being more sort of like dramatic and other elements there. We sort of niche and segment and differentiate between parts, but transfer neatly over. We are cognizant of the instrumental layers that are around us in order to elevate the experience in a way that seems appropriate for the mood. We are more sort of catchy with our melodies, with repeated kind of passages there and harmonies in the hook sections to get it stuck in the listener's head. But we're also got enough rhythmical diversity within the various lines and stanzas in order for it to be effective. And that's so important to be not only able to rap proficiently, but also to do so with a sense of personality and purpose behind it, because anyone can speak quickly into a microphone. It's how you navigate the experience or like invite the listener in that is meaningful here. And it's not like, if I understand the subject matter correctly, it's not revolutionarily unique. So you've got to kind of put your own sort of spin on it. And I feel that just with the audio visual experience here, I can safely say after reviewing quite a few songs with similar themes to this, that this is markedly different. But yeah, ultimately just very capable and confident on the microphone. It seemed like they were having a great time being as aggressive or as assertive as they needed to be. There's varieties of different ways that we express ourselves, and we build when we need to, and we come back down after that chorus when needed to as well. We also know when to step aside, have that guitar solo-ish kind of thing going on then with the sweeps and stuff. It's very good. Structurally, this track is around 4 minutes with a mixture of different verses and choruses and solo and kind of instrumental sections. We don't need more than this. We really don't need more than this. There's a mixture of varieties, so like cinematic kind of elevated things that kind of set the mood for it being a larger than life experience. But there's just so many different ingredients. We've got this kind of Eastern kind of exotic sounding string section at the start to lead us into the piece, which sounds commercial grade. So even before we start really listening to the track, we know that we're going into something that's, at least from a production perspective, is quite special. But we have these kind of picked elements there, this kind of plucked element like a mandolin or something like that, and it gives it this kind of dark ages or kind of like exotic flair to it, using a mixture of tremolo picking, some sort of like extra articulations there, just to add a bit of spice and personality to it. You have these wonderful reverbs on them as well. There's this kind of ghostly feel to it, like it's larger than life. And then you have the rises in the background as well, which make it sound like we're literally again rising into a new section. We have these really sort of punchy sort of like orchestral drums that have this body to them that kind of stab into the ether, and they just add a lot of tension there with the mix. They're not sort of like straightforward rhythms either. Boom, 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 like utilizing the quarters, eighths, and sixteenths on beat and syncopated neatly. But then you've got these other sort of harps in the backgrounds there, a lyre or something like that, which is also adding a sort of a sub melody there. And it starts to become quite compositionally complicated, but in a way that because of the layering and sub layers and stuff like that, it doesn't become overwhelming. But then of course we kind of flip the switch and we go into this section with these distorted rhythm guitars there with a mixture of different palm mutes and sort of minor oriented melodies in the low end of the scale. And I love it. I just think it's such a unexpected twist. The song isn't long enough to get used to it, especially because they add an additional solo section as well. It's very, very cool. But just the fact that we're going into a full kind of almost nu metal-ish kind of section there with the really thick bass tone and the drums there is really neat. A different type of percussion on top of what we already had. And I love the tone of the kick, snares, hi-hats, crashes, etc. But also the fact that I believe it's an acoustic drum kit, and it's nice to have that dynamic range and body and flow to it, that kind of sizzling nature to it to go alongside the chugs. It's a really colorful use of those octaves around the minute 5:05 mark there. That just adds a nice sort of mid-range resonance, despite again how busy it is becoming at this point with everything else in there. It's a very full sounding track. It does have both compositional and production dynamic range, but you need a few times to listen through it to really understand the little intricacies of what's going on. And when you go into that chorus section, there are two things that I really appreciate. One is that we're not relying on the main sort of cymbals, kicks, and snares for the main sort of hook section. There's this almost kind of tribal push forward with the tom elements, the dun 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 dun. It kind of makes it almost quite combative, like we're preparing for war. And I dig it. I think that's really neat, especially considering how fronting or confrontational we're trying to be about how we've been treated. I think there's also this kind of upper kind of level lead guitar da 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 kind of riff going on in the top layer, and because they're not trying to compete with the vocals, you can hear them if you focus intently on it. But just knowing that when things are in a similar position in the frequency spectrum, we need to step back a little bit, especially with the vocalist's range there. It just, you go searching for it, and then you've kind of already fallen for the bit. You're within the track, and there's tom fills, you know, like some interesting snare and sort of like high, low, and floor tone transitions with the 16th notes before you have a kind of a big crash and like an effects and then there were bass drops as well, like sub drops as well, just to kind of make things sound huge. And there are like adjustments of riffs as well, like around the 2:24 mark, where we're kind of mixing with bends and hammer-ons and pull-offs and other sort of fun techniques rhythmically. It's just cool to not just rely on one style of playing the rhythm guitar. To add further riffs is just excellent, dude. Bends are a great way to induce tension, but you just feel so spoiled by that point, you know what I mean? And I think that that's before a chorus as well, so I might be mistaken, but I think we're adjusting things further and adding, you know, further unpredictability to the experience by switching up how we expect to perceive those riffs and stuff like that, which is not taking the listener's attention for granted at any point. And on top of that, it's a really competent instrumental performance, as I understand it, without a note out of place. When you go into the 309 mark and you have those solo sections and they're really kind of like, it's got a kind of a very classy phrasing to the lead guitars there. It's nicely presented within the mix there, and it has room within the frequency spectrum to not be too choked by things. It's a different intensity and range to a lot of the sort of guitars we've had until that point, and with a lack of vocals there, it has room to sort of do some kind of really fancy stuff and be more present than it was, for example, in the chorus sections as the sub lead arpeggio. And there's great use of wah pedals as well there for further adjustments in texture and tone. And the double kicks as they come up at that 3:23 mark are just wonderful. There's just such a great understanding that you need to not just have one thing doing something, you need the other parts of the track to come into it. And I haven't even spoken about the bass tone yet. Like the electric bass, the kind of high end on it is so well polished, it's so well behaved, rolling between the octaves, but also the notes within the scales and modes associated. It's just cool to have the instruments work. And so often I find that, you know, while I appreciate the musicality of a lot of the stuff I review and listen to, they haven't always earned an additional chorus But just with the variety of different riffs that they have, that big kind of like sub drop they have bringing you in for one final time, you do genuinely feel like they've earned that final chorus there to sort of lead you out. And you feel like you've had an adventure. And having that kind of string instrument play us out after that final chorus, where they don't overstay their welcome, you feel like you're at the end of the journey, you heard them, and you've heard a different take on the subject matter that you appreciate. There is probably a lot more that I've missed, because this is just a really huge sounding song with a lot of fun details, but I nonetheless appreciate the performance itself. I don't think there's a note out of place, and I genuinely, outside of reviews, would be keen to listen to more of their stuff. I think, just full disclosure, it's just a very interesting sort of project they've got going on here. Thematically, minor oriented, clearly, because they're going through a difficult time, but I think they have this prominence of the minor whilst also adding occasional harmonic and melodic minors, and there's enough variety instrumentally to not need to do too much more with that. So I think the chord choices, the harmonies, the melodies, etc., the adjustments of structures and sequences is more than enough, and I to sort of like keep us interested outside and additional to everything else that's going on within this track, which is quite cool. I probably seem like I'm glazing a little bit. I'm not glazing because I feel like I'm obligated to. This is some of the... I really enjoyed this track. I think it's quite neat. Studio production, recording, mixing, and mastering was well handled there. I think that you can hear all the different strings, the guitars, bass, drums, any of the synths, the bass drops, etc. All of it's very good. I like the panning of the vocals around the stereo field. It was nice and wide. The headphones and music sort of absorbed you. There was no weird resonant frequencies on the frequency spectrum. There was dynamic range, both compositionally, production-wise. The music wasn't choked. I liked how there were literal parts which were quieter or louder depending on how we went. Around that part at 3:33, I didn't mention that in the instrumental section or the structural section, but I just love that the keys and like the music box, kind of the creepiness of that before we go into the hook was just fantastic. It's just that little orchestral cinematic kind of approach there, the ticking of the clock there before we go back into the... It's so, because often people will just go from the solo straight into the chorus again, but to have that step back, that call back to the start of the piece, how we presented things, it's just neat. Like, we're kind of counting down to that final push, and it's so colorful to have different leads there is really neat. And what's more is that sub drop is so aggressive, but like, it's not produced poorly. It's just distorted to kind of kick your teeth in a bit and to show the intensity of the intent of what we're trying to accomplish with this. We're sick of being made. We want to take control of the situation. So ultimately, I don't think the vocals were overproduced. They sound commercial grade to me. Really distinctive vocal texture and timbre there. Nice positioning within the mix. Great layering there for intent. Very interesting to listen to. No complaints about the production side of things. No applicable constructive critique either. Honestly, if I was to give this a score out of 10, I'd probably give it an 8.5, which is very, very high for me. Very, very high. I don't really give more than 8s unless they're very, very, very good. From a general listener's perspective, it's very rare that I listen to a song which genuinely impresses me. This track has just got so many fun ideas that transition so neatly between one another with subject matter discussed that is so personal to them, but then just presented so eloquently to us. It's just so full of well executed concepts, and I just don't want to take that for granted. I wish them all the best of luck in future. I think they're going to go places if they keep it up. But thank you for watching my review of this track from an ex named Lyrizone, titled Make You Mine. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.